Hi, I'm Claire Tompkins, the Clutter Coach, and this is the Organize Your Life podcast. I am passionate about organizing because it makes my clients' lives so much easier, more relaxed, and with more time to spend the way they want to. In every podcast in the show, I'll lay out a simple organizing concept, and I'll tell you why it's important. I'll also include an action step at the end so you can start practicing right away. My specialty is chunking down this big topic so it's not overwhelming. That's the concept for this podcast, which is based on my first book, 52 Simple Ways to Get Organized. The book is available on my website and on Amazon. I work with clients in person in the Berkeley, California area and via email and Skype, so you don't have to be local to me. Visit the Hire tab on my website or email me at claire@cluttercoach.net. If you like the show, please rate it and review it. To do that, go to my website, cluttercoach.net, and scroll down for the show notes. Each show notes post has a link to leave a review in iTunes. I would so appreciate that. Okay, on to the podcast. This is podcast 74, and it's about the power of labeling. It's to be expected that organizers like to label things. They run around with their little machines and slap a label onto anything that's not moving. Well, I don't go that far. Not everything needs a label. Ease of finding things and ease of putting them away are two big reasons that getting organized matters. For anything you organize, it's supposed to save you time and make your life easier, not turn you into an obsessive compulsive freak. But in some cases, labels come in super handy, and maybe not for the reasons you think. Spice jars need labels. Of course, you can tell a cinnamon stick from oregano, but can you tell oregano from tarragon at a glance? If you have to spend any time at all wondering, then you need to label those bottles. The other reason to label them is so that you can arrange them in alphabetical order. Some people like to separate out sweet from savory, for instance, but to me that is just too much work. Because again, there's the thinking part. Wait, is this sweet or is it savory? We're wasting time here, people. It is far simpler to have one place to keep spices and use the alphabet, which you should know without having to think about, for everything. The alphabet method also lets you know where to find a particular bottle because the letters are in a specific order. That's what I like about the alphabet. In my cabinet, instead of being arrayed in one plane where I can see each bottle, my spices are in long trays lined up lengthwise. So I slide out the tray I want to find my spice. Since they're in alphabetical order, I don't actually need to see each bottle. When I want fennel, I pull out the tray that has curry in the front position. I know it's in that tray because the next tray over starts with nutmeg. See how elegant that is? Another area where labels are badly needed is containers of grouped items, especially when you have small and varied items in them, and they're stored in a place that doesn't give hints as to what's in them. Clothing doesn't usually fall into this category. It's in the closet along with other clothing. Nor does something like CDs or DVDs if they are in an entertainment center with other things of their kind. I came across this issue last week when I helped some clients clear out and organize a storage closet. They had containers of craft supplies, gift wrap, maps, electronics, batteries, and gear repair, among others. They are outdoorsy types. None of the boxes was marked. The craft supply box was mostly craft supplies, but there was also yarn in there, which had its own spot elsewhere, and tent tape, which really belongs in the gear repair box. The gift wrap box was mostly gift wrap, except for a few craft items and some plain envelopes that they'd been looking for and that should have been in the office. The electronics box was all electronics except for a stray headlamp. When a box has no label, it's easy for it to suffer from scope creep or function creep. According to Wikipedia, this term refers to changes, continuous or uncontrolled growth in a project scope. It can occur when the scope of a project is not properly defined, documented, or controlled. Likewise, a container with no defined purpose, or a purpose that's been forgotten because it went unlabeled, becomes a spot for a category of items that stretches to include things that really don't belong there, and, worse, that you would never think to look for in there. The last part is really important because, as you know, if you can't find a thing you're looking for, it's the same as not having it at all. If the craft supply box had a nice label on it saying, craft supply, nobody would put yarn in there. So you're holding something in your hand, you want to stash it somewhere, but once you read the label, you know that it doesn't go there. You have to find another spot. When there's no label, you don't have that visual speed bump. You can make up a vague reason like, the headlamp uses batteries and it's black, just like most of this other electronic stuff, so I'll just throw it in there. You haven't had to vet your choice by comparing it to the specific words on the label. A label will also prompt you to think, well, if this doesn't go here, where does it go? Your mind wants to look around for the right label to match it up. And then you start thinking more concretely about what kind of label the container would have. Does that container exist now? Should you make one? Or can the item go into a container of other things that it is similar to, as long as I add another label to indicate its presence? You know the phrase, a place for everything and everything in its place. Apparently Benjamin Franklin said that. He didn't have a fab label maker like mine, but I hope he labeled those containers. You can't have everything in its place until you define those places and then mark them so that their purpose is clear. What can you do right now? Find the closest unmarked container, make sure what's in there is what you want to have in there, and give it a nice label. Hey, thanks for listening. I'm Claire Tompkins, the Clutter Coach. If you like the show, I'd love it if you'd leave a rating and review in iTunes. You can subscribe, too, so the podcast will be ready and waiting for you to listen to. You'll find the show notes on my blog at www.cluttercoach.net, and you can check out my store to find books I've written and a whole bunch of other stuff. If you're a fan of the show, you can become a patron on patreon.com for as little as $1 a month. You can find my page by going to the Patreon website, that's Patreon, and searching on Clutter Coach. I'll still post the podcast free of charge, but I've got some cool rewards for folks who want to help me make the show even better. Come back next week for a new podcast.